Good afternoon, and welcome to the Voice of Wisdom. With over 60 years of experience as an investment banker, entrepreneur, investment analyst, genius economist, venture capitalist, and political analyst and strategist, Morty Davis is Wall Street and capitalism personified. The over 400 companies for which he has raised more than $3 billion over the years have created a countless number of jobs and exciting new products. Through the voice of wisdom, Mr. Davis explores, analyzes, and debates the most topical political, economic, and social issues facing our world today. Joining Mr. Davis today for a discussion on the week's news headlines is Len Carter. Len is an investment banker, business consultant, and private investor. And now, Mr. Davis and Mr. Carter.
Welcome back. It must be Wednesday evening, 6:30. It's when I meet with my favorite people, you all, my cohorts on this podcast. It's not the size of the audience, it's the quality of the audience. And I don't think anybody has a more intelligent, more involved audience than you all. I thank you. I love you all. I love your constructive criticisms and even your hurtful criticisms, because they make me more aware of each subject and how I have to consider the other's point of view. So thank you all, and I love you. And because I love you, I love human beings. I love my family. I love my community. I love my state, my country, and I love my fellow human beings. So that's why I wrote this book, Happiness Guaranteed or Your Misery Back. And it says how to be, at the bottom of the cover says, how to be happy no matter what. And the reason I introduced the book at this juncture is because inevitably, and if you listen to the podcast, our podcast, and most podcasts long enough that discuss current events and civics and politics, it's so depressing. It's such a downer because the only news is controversial, bad news. Families have broken up over it. Friends have broken up over it. And it's horrible. You know, we could disagree. We could agree to disagree, but we don't have to be so angry with each other over our different points of view. And yet we have that for 4, 5, 6 years already, maybe longer. But especially since the Trump ascension to his political aspirations as president in 2015. It's 2015, right?
He started, he rode down the elevator, I think, in 2015.
Yeah, and the elevator hasn't stopped going down since. So I start off by pointing out each week that the news is always a downer. I once had a team of guys come in, very attractive guys, and with a nice business plan, well written and everything. And they wanted to do a series, a weekly program, more often than weekly, a daily program even, on good news. And I read some of the discussion, and it's something that was a real turnoff because none of it was exciting. You know, if it's not a murder or a multiple murder is nothing, or some major fraud or some government insurrection or something. It's not news, you know. So there wouldn't be newspapers, there wouldn't be media so much media activity if there wasn't so much bad news, uh, upsetting news. So, by virtue of what we do at this podcast in discussing the week's events, inevitably it's going to be depressing. So, recognize that. Recognize that. I think it's appropriate for me to start off by giving you an uplifting message on how to be happier than you are and how to be happy all the time. So, with that, before I go into the week's events with Len Carter, my favorite guest, because it's brilliant. Every graduate degree he got honors from the same school that I graduated from, Harvard Business School, and Stanford, where he got a master's in electrical engineering, and before that at Cornell for electrical engineering. So he's really very bright and very aggravating too, because he often disagrees with me. But he's very nice. He says he's nice. I don't think so. So to start the program and give you some idea of how to face the world and be happier, because it's not easy. There's a lot of things that can depress us, including personal things that have nothing to do with the rest of the world. Even your kids. They say insanity is hereditary. You get it from your kids. So your kids can drive you nuts. So I want to tell you, the first thing to do is start every day with a smile, every conversation with a smile, even a laugh if you can, if there's a humor involved. That'll put a different feeling in your body and your mood. It's very hard to laugh and be unhappy. It just brings out positive feelings in your brain. I forget what they call it, but there's a psychological term for what it does to your brain. And there's a professor at Harvard, an Israeli professor that teaches happiness. It's the most popular course at Harvard. You can't even get into the course because so many students line up for it. So many of the kids or even the grown-ups that apply to attend that course are necessarily rejected because he can take in as many as people want. But it's definitely the most popular course that Harvard's ever offered. So it's a need we all have. And I'm telling you, the way to do that is start off right now with a smile. Smile, please. It's easy to be happy if you smile. It's easy to be happy if you make up your mind you're the boss and you're not going to think negative thoughts. Don't let anybody upset you. You're the boss. Don't let them get to you. If they're downers, don't hang out with them. You don't need people to depress you. There's enough to depress you without people inviting people to.
You don't need help.
Yeah. Give yourself the most help. So smile, laugh, and most important, as it says in Pirkei Avos, who is happy? One who is satisfied with his portion. If you count your blessings every day, but you have to appreciate your blessings because we don't. Whatever comes easily, we don't. To make a lot of money doesn't come easily, but even there we don't appreciate it till we have a big score, and then after that, not very long, then we're looking for the next score. So look forward to the future with hope, believe in the future. If you're going through a tough time, know that good things are going to be in the offing if you get through this tough period. And you can help yourself get through the tough period. Like if I go see a friend and he's gone through a tragedy, some loss, he's lost a lot of money, lost a member of his family, worse, lost a child or a sibling. There's nothing I could say that will take away the pain of that experience. But instead of using Solomon's famous advice that helped him overcome, which was to say, this too shall pass. Everything passes. But in the meantime, you can do a lot of damage to your brain, to your body. Most illnesses are psychosomatic, headaches, ulcers, heart disease. All of these things come from tension and aggravation and being upset. So when I go see a friend who's gone through troubles, I sit and chat with him. I don't tell him this will pass, because that's not a great help. I tell him, I start to talk about our friendship, what great times we had, what great times we're going to have. And I tell him, remember, last year we spent Christmas holidays in Vermont skiing, and we have an appointment again this year to do that. So you bring him into the future, to events that he's looking forward to, and you can lift his spirits in that manner. So be your own best friend, lift your own spirits. Think about the future and all the good things in the offings. And if something very negative occurs, you can't change it, but figure out how to make that an asset. If you lost somebody special, develop a foundation in their name. Make parties every 6 months, every year, where you invite people, you celebrate their life, and you fund something that the person you lost died from or is suffering from, so that in that person's name that you're so depressed about, you're doing good things, and for the rest of eternity, or as long as you're alive, you get a lift in having fond memories attached to that person and doing great things to keep them to keep him in everybody's mind in a positive way. So right now, that's what I want you to do. Smile, laugh if you think anything funny. If you look at my face and you think it's funny, laugh. It's not funny for me when I look in the mirror. But anyway, and you know, your job, it's not that hard if you make up your mind to do it. Your job is to make yourself happy. That's the only job you should have, the main job. Not selfish. You make yourself happy at other people's expense by making fun of them or something. No, be happy about the things you're going to do in this world that's going to lift the world, that's going to make others happy. Do nice things for others. If you do something nice, charitable or otherwise for somebody, you feel good. Try it. It's so uplifting. So please do that for me. And if you don't do that and become the boss and insist that you're going to be happy no matter what, and make yourself happy, I'm going to come around to your house and make sure that I'll grab you by the throat, and you'll be unhappy by that, but I'll convince you that you got to be happy. Otherwise, I'm not letting go of your throat. So God bless you, and start off. And the best way that I know of getting the clues to happiness fast is acquire a copy of this book, Happiness Guaranteed or Your Misery Back. It's 365 pages, one page for every day of the year, that gives you suggestions, hints, brilliant ideas from the greatest writers, philosophers in human history that talked about how to be happy, talked about what it takes to be happy. There's something in Hebrew teachings called Pirkei Avos. It's the teachings of our sages, our brightest forefathers and rabbis, and they tell us how to be happy. Count your blessings. So what does it mean, count your blessings? You know, people have a hard time thinking, like, well, what blessings? I had a bad day yesterday, I lost money in the stock market. That's not your blessings. There's a rabbi on the West Coast, Rabbi Braverman. He has 4 kids. His 4th kid was born blind. So he tells his other 3 kids every morning, he says, do you appreciate that you can see, that your eyes work? You know, something that we all take for granted. Every morning we wake up, our fingers work, our eyes work, our senses work. We don't even appreciate it, that it's so automatic. Things that come automatically we don't value. But those are the most valuable things in the world. There's a song, the best things in life are free. I don't know the words exactly, but it's something like the sun in the morning, the moon at night, the sand on the beach, the waves on the ocean, all things that you look at that you don't have to make a big investment in, that lifts your spirits. So if you could just appreciate, and the way to realize that is people that lose that capacity, people that go through treatment for cancer or some very bad disease or suffer some bad disease that takes away their eyesight or their ability to move their fingers or their legs or whatever, or play sports, they're miserable. And rightly so, because, you know, that's what makes life livable, to do things. So when they lose that, and then when do they really appreciate it? If they have a recovery and they get it back, and the first morning they look out the window and their eyes work and they see the color of the trees and the greens and the leaves shaking and nature. It's such a thrill for them. That's there's no amount of money that can buy that. So those blessings, count them. We take them for granted. So every day that you get up, count your blessings, that everything works. If your kids' arms and legs work, if their eyes work, or if on the way to recovering from something negative, count those blessings. That's the real blessings. Even write them down. It'll help. If you make a list of your blessings, that'll help. Money is not the blessing because you could lose them. I know multi-billionaires that are depressed. There was a head of a company on the New York Stock Exchange, a big company, it's called a railroad company years ago, Grand Central. It's the station in Manhattan, the Midtown, is called Grand Central Station. It was a very successful company, very successful stock. And the president of the company was regarded as a genius and brilliant moneymaker. And one Friday afternoon, he was at home alone. He was shooting billiards on his table, pool on his table. And for some reason, nobody knows exactly why, he was very depressed. He took out a what do you call it?
Revolver?
A revolver
Handgun?
and shot himself through the brains. Most of us thought of him as probably the happiest guy. He's got money, he's got recognition, he's looked up to as such a creative founder of a company or operator of a company. So money doesn't make you happy. And when you lose it, it makes you doubly unhappy. But it's not anything like losing your facilities, your capacities. And if you get up in the morning, I don't know how many people do this, get up and look at their fingers and say, wow, it's so nice that they work. Look out the window and see the color of things. Look at their grandchildren or their children or their wives or somebody they love and see them and observe them. Just that is such a valuable thing. There's nothing equal to it. So those are the blessings. Count what matters. And the fact that it's there for you automatically every morning when you get up doesn't mean it's cheap or worthless. It's the most valuable thing we have. Thank God. And God even tells us in the Old Testament that we're all created in his image. We should walk with our head high and proudly throughout our lives that God made us in his image. So enjoy who you are and always smile and don't let all the negatives get to you. And if your mind starts focusing on negatives, switch immediately. Do something that makes you happy. Read a book, watch a movie, eat something that you love, prepare a meal that you love. Just preparing it makes you happy. I said over and over again, for me, whenever that happens, I get in a mood where I'm thinking of some very bad loss I had in the market. I was suicidal. And then I just went down to the freezer in the kitchen and opened the freezer and took out a quart of Haagen-Dazs chocolate ice cream, a ton of whipped cream and chopped nuts and cherry on top. And just making it that Sunday made me happy, just preparing it. And when I started to bite into it, I forgot all the troubles in the world. It was like being in paradise. So find out what works for you. You know, visit with your best friend. Make love. That works for some people if you don't get into a war. Anyway, I don't want to talk about happiness anymore. But if you buy this book, and my experience so far with it, everybody who bought it, everybody who received it as a gift, not everybody, because not everybody called me, but every person that ever called me, and more than any other book I've ever written, I've gotten these calls, spontaneous calls, thanking me, telling me, even 6 months after they got the book, 8 months later, how much happiness it's added to their lives, because it's got humor, it's got jokes, and it's got all the brilliance of all the greatest from what was his name, Dale Carnegie, who wrote How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, to Bishop Steen, who wrote The Power of Positive Thinking, and all the philosophers and forefathers of our religions all gave us great ideas how to be happier, how to be content. And this book tries to capture all of those. So you're going to get the benefit of all of that in one book. And if you're not happy, having purchased that, if you're not satisfied, completely satisfied, and feel you don't get your money's worth out of this, if you don't get much more than your money's worth out of it, send me your purchase slip, and I will send you back not only with your purchase price and let you keep the book, but I will send you back double your purchase price. So right away you'll be happy that you got doubled your money. So please, for your sake, not for my sake, because every sale of the book that I make, I give it to charity. I've made enough money, thank God, in my life that I don't need any more money. I don't work for the money to get. I never knew, when my classmates who achieved the kind of success that I did, or my Wall Street contemporaries made anywhere near the success that I did. When I got out of school, out of Harvard at 30, I was totally broke. I had no money. Harvard paid for my going to school. They gave me scholarships and then paid for my furniture because I went back with 3 little infants, children. Once you got in, once you met that criteria, they have big
Endowments.
and they pay for it. If you get in, if you qualify, they pay for it. I paid them back many times over, but I'll never forget it. I'd be thankful to them. So all of those other people that made success similar to mine, anywhere near mine, the first thing they all did was buy their own private jets and their own yachts and their own mansions and in the Hamptons. A couple of them bought mansions in the Caribbean and in Europe, and 2 of them that I'm familiar with bought their own islands. So I never needed that. That was not going to make me happy. The money I made, from day one, I gave $1 million to one of the schools I admire, graduate schools I admired. I gave money to hospitals, to research, medical research, to all kind of good charities, to kids that were deprived of adequate diets. And it gave me so much joy and pleasure. And I got letters from, even to this day, from people who went to Mount Sinai Medical School and write to me, "Thank you, Mr. Davis. If not for your scholarship money that you provided me, I could have never attended medical school. And I'm treating patients free as a result of your generosity." And so there's nothing that makes me happier than that. No yacht and no airplane and none of that. So do nice things for people. If you even help an old lady cross the street, it'll give you so much joy that you did something nice. Or if you gave somebody on the street that's starving, and you, instead of criticizing them and say, "Why don't they go to work?" If you give them $1 bill or $2 bills, and they're so happy they can go get some lunch or something to eat, it gives you such a good feeling that you could do something nice. It's like almost being a god. So do that. So get a hold of this book. And like I say, if you're not happy with the book, you don't think it was a good purchase, I'll give you double your money back and you can keep the book. So without further ado, let me get to the aggravation of the week. Mr. Carter, again, I say he's brilliant and we have the benefit. That's why I invite him back persistently and consistently.
Well, last week you took a week off with a show on happiness, so not to get the audience too happy, we need to go back to talking about the news and the topics of the world. So let's delve right into that.
Who was my guest last week?
We had Barry Farber and your co-author Rookie. So
yeah, okay.
But we don't want to have people getting too happy on us, because 1 week of happiness is enough. Now let's get back to the unhappiness.
That never seems to be a problem.
Yeah.
Getting people
right?
too happy.
Sufficient unto the day are the problems. Who said that? One of the generals. But let's jump into...
I think Reagan used to repeat that.
Oh, really?
Sufficient unto the day are the problems thereof.
Yes, that is.
You never have to worry.
Yeah, don't wake up thinking What am
you
I
won't
gonna?
have enough problems to fill up your day.
It always seems to come out of somewhere.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we've seen in the past week or so, we have seen a lot going on in the Middle East and Gaza, and we saw a breakdown of what was a ceasefire for the moment. Wanted to first get your take on that. Were you surprised, or are you surprised that this that the ceasefire has ended and that the war has started again? One thing I was surprised from all, or maybe not, for all the that's happened in destruction in Gaza over the last year. As soon as the ceasefire started, all of a sudden now all the terrorists come literally out of the ground, pretty much, which tells me that this is going to be a very difficult effort to really eradicate an enemy which seems to literally permeate everywhere, and even destruction, what you might think of as destruction, and Gaza looks pretty destroyed. It's how do you really eliminate that type of enemy who isn't an established government, isn't an
The very
established.
charter says not that they want more land or they want control of Gaza or any part of the Middle East. The charter says they want the elimination of the state of Israel, and more than that, the elimination of the Jewish people. So how do you deal with somebody that wants to eliminate you? How do you, as the war started after October 7th, somebody as bright and who I look up to and respect so much as a writer and an op-ed journalist for the New York Times, what's his name, Thomas Friedman, and three other leading Jewish, the head of the Secretary of State who was Jewish, Blinken, and the head of the Council of Economic not economic advisors of international of strategic military strategy or something. Or four of them that very day wrote articles. Just give them the Palestinians their second state, their own state. And in 85 years, since 48, is that 85 years? Something close to 85 years. Israel's made every effort to try to give them a state, to help them develop a state. And they haven't made the slightest gesture. Israel gave them Gaza without any conditions. They had to take their own military, their own Israeli defense forces, and kick out the people, the Israelis that settled there and built businesses there and developed the country into something viable, because they didn't want to leave. And they forced them out so they could turn it over to the Palestinians free and clear. And during Bill Clinton's period, he had something over at what was this summer place?
Camp David.
Camp David meeting with Arafat and the Israeli prime minister at the time, I don't know if it was Begin, but anyway, I think it was Begin offered him 95% of what he wanted. And Arafat got up and left back for the Middle East and started an intifada of the Palestinians against the Israelis, killing tons of Israelis without any provocation except that they felt so wronged that they didn't have the state that Israel had, that was awarded to them by a majority of the nations of the world at the UN. So it's not like Israel captured it or took it away from the Palestinians. The Palestinians never had a state. They never had a government. They never had a Palestinian army. All of a sudden, they rebelled. But over 85 years, they've never made any gesture, the slightest gesture. Israel gave, whenever they could, they returned the Sinai to Egypt because the prime minister of Egypt at the time came to Jerusalem, met with the Knesset. It was an act of respect and cooperation and diplomacy. And so he got a Nobel Prize rightfully and was killed by his own radical people because he did that. So whenever they had a chance, they did what they could to try to bring a peaceful resolution. So I was disappointed in Thomas Friedman, not knowing the history, that there wasn't the slightest gesture in 85 years to show that would solve the problem. They said, just give them their own state.
So when the ceasefire, which lasted a few weeks, maybe, when that ended, were you surprised, or did you think that was going to happen?
I was sure it was going to end because just the way they arranged it, they gave back hostages, all of whom they were civilians, not even in the war, were captured on that Saturday, October 7th, and murdered and abused. Kids were killed and women were raped. And they returned hostages on the installment basis. Israel got back, 15 hostages. Never were, active adversaries of Hamas. And Israel in turn released to the Hamas and to the Palestinians hundreds of murderers, jailed people they had in jails for murder, for mass killings, for killing kids. It was outrageous. So it wasn't a real gesture of we want peace. They held the hostages, which gave them the leverage to dictate terms. And so over the period they got back, I don't know if there was as many as 100 hostages, but still there's 54 more hostages, and many of them that they returned were dead. So I didn't have any hope for that, and I believe that Bibi Netanyahu's initial response to October 7th was, we can't tolerate this anymore. Every few years, these madmen, these terrorists, these ruthless killers come after the Israelis and kill as many as they can and take captives of innocent children. So it wasn't a deal Even till this day, Israel said, if you give us back all the hostages, including dead bodies, so we could bury them, that you presumably killed, we'll end the fighting. We'll end and they won't do that because this is their leverage. So did I expect it to end? I expected it to be disappointing as it has been.
But given what we saw, how once the hostilities stopped, how Hamas just seemed to come out of the ground, literally, it does make you wonder.
Out of the woodworking, out of the tunnels,
literally out of the ground,
under the underground.
So when you see that, how does that? How would that fact influence a strategy to do what Netanyahu said from the beginning: eliminate Hamas? Is it really even possible? When you see what happened, how they just were as if they were not even destroyed. They're still there. So how do you, or is it even possible?
No, sadly,
maybe not.
Sadly, the Israeli government and Bibi Netanyahu, its leader, and the Knesset sort of rolled over. They had no choice. They were held hostage by the hostages' families. Because if you look at the people that were held hostage, babies that were killed, children, women, non-fighting people, they were just having a normal day. Actually, most of them were at a concert that morning. So there was no hostility that led to this. And it shows you how vicious these terrorists were, just looking to make pain for Israel and to destroy whatever they could.
So, one of the things, one of the expressions we hear all the time, follow the money, maybe, you can attack where you think, the ants are, or you can attack, the source of food that's attracting the ants. So what people, argue is if you cut off the money, and where's the big support from a lot of terrorism in the Middle East? Iran. So is a solution to really work on the financing side, because I think the last year plus shows in Gaza you can destroy physical buildings and things, but it's very hard to get rid of the people because they're all over the place. But if you can dry up the funding, to choke off,
you couldn't, because what do you call it? Gaza has been supported by UNRWA, and they got billions and billions of dollars.
Right. So 80%. I'm wondering, is that's
no? So I'm saying UNRWA, which was supposed to be neutral and just a source of taking care of the people and the major unemployment, they never built even an economy. How did you do that? They made no effort. All of the money they got, they don't even know till this day how to get to build. They say they have a more extensive underground tunnels than the New York subway system, and they were not supposed to be able to get any of the materials, and all of that was brought in through UNRWA and through Egypt. Yep. So UNRWA became allies because they were living good lives. They became the owners of the country. the leaders of the country, they participated in the October 7th terrorist attacks. That's unheard of. UNRWA is supposed to be part of the UN, part of neutral. Although the UN's never been neutral with respect to Israel.
That's true.
Except when they set up the country. But since then, they just don't.
So I think one of it's a multifaceted approach. Defunding UNRWA, but also working on some of the sources of terrorist funding, like Iran. So one of the topics over the past many years since Obama and the nuclear treaty with Iran relates to their nuclear program. How do you prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon?
Well, remember this. When we had 3,000 Americans killed on 9/11, when planes flew into the World Trade Center and some of them a couple into the Pentagon, and we lost 3,000 people, we went to war against not the 3,000, whoever committed those crimes, but a whole country, Afghanistan. We lost tremendous amount of blood and treasure without really changing the country. And it was horrendous. And here we're letting, because they didn't bomb the United States directly, but every day they were bombing American ships and access those ships that were running errands or deliveries to the U.S. from all countries throughout the world. And we just let them do it through the Houthis and through various other manipulative moves through Hezbollah in what country is that?
Lebanon.
Lebanon. And I just don't understand. We went after Lebanon, after Afghanistan, even though Afghanistan did nothing. And here we know that Iran is responsible, and we just go after Yemen and Lebanon. It's outrageous. The way to do it is you want to stop them from getting it, instead of waiting for them to hit the United States with an atom bomb. Stop them, but you know they're the ones that are doing it. Why aren't we doing it? And I don't understand. But way back, Biden tried to negotiate, and they keep moving closer and closer to having a bomb. But there was no assurance that they wouldn't get it.
So what form would that take? An invasion of the country?
Yeah.
And then an occupation while the government is
throwing of the Khomeini, and hopefully an election of the people, because they say the people of Iran.
Or even, as you pointed out, sometimes an election right away is not a good thing, as what we saw happen in Iraq when we had an election right after a victory.
We do what we
so
did
we have
in
an
Japan
occupation for some period of time.
Like in Germany.
Right.
After we won the war, we put in our people, our government. MacArthur ran
Japan.
General MacArthur ran Japan for 8 years before they had election.
Why do you think that is maybe it's just too early? Why do you think it hasn't happened yet? I mean, the prior administration, I don't think felt strongly enough to do that. What do you think the current administration? Do you think they're waiting? Do you think they're going to do it, or maybe never do it?
Probably
Waiting
not
for
sure.
a bigger provocation,
It's
maybe?
related, I think, to the power of the states in that area that are so dominant in oil. So the United States doesn't want to upset Saudi Arabia or Iraq or what other countries? What was the one that was attacked by Iraq?
Kuwait.
Kuwait. They just didn't want to get into it. If anything, we had a period there where we tried to change the Middle East by having them become democracies. I forget what they called that period.
Arab Spring?
For Arab Spring, yeah. And you can't do that. You can't impose democracy.
So
it has to evolve.
So how do you deal? How would you, if you believe that, how would occupation of Iran work if you can't impose a democracy?
Once you do it, you do it.
So you think you can impose a democracy?
Yeah, you can win.
But it didn't work with the Arab Spring.
Khomeini.
You have to get rid of the government, not just.
Well, no, it didn't work with the Arab Spring because we're trying to change culture,
But wouldn't you have to change culture in Iran?
No, but we don't have to change the whole Middle East. We were trying to change all of the Middle East, their behavior, their attitude. Can't do that.
But it didn't even work with one country.
No, because one country you could take over and dominate it, and then the others maybe shape up. But this idea of doing it nicely, through retraining, and didn't work.
So do you think?
Didn't begin.
So
to work.
Given that
if it were
attitude,
me, I would have right away attacked the Khomeini. I told you one of the guys worked for me for one of my companies. He was with told me he was with the State Department formerly. So he called me up. He didn't call me. He came to my office, started talking to me. He said, what would you do about the Khomeini who's in Paris and he wants to come to Iraq and get rid of the Shah? I said, what do you mean, what do you do? I said, kill him. He said, oh, you're an idiot, Morty. I said, why? He says, because you'd make a martyr out of him. I said, I'd rather have a dead martyr than a live troublemaker. Well, this is the diplomacy. This is the State Department. This is the stupidity. You got this saying, strength through
peace
through strength. When we don't use the strength to bring peace. We have it, but when it comes time to use it, we didn't use it. If you don't use it.
I think you're probably right. I don't think.
You sure you want to say that?
Yeah, that even this administration, that's not that, that's much more eager to flex muscle and use the strength, not just show it. I don't even know if they have the compunction to go against all the other oil producing Middle East countries who don't want an overthrow.
I don't know why you say that. This administration
you think they'll do it?
Hasn't started any wars.
No, but I'm saying, do you think that they'll?
No, I'm saying we have peace through strength, but we don't use the strength.
I think we're agreeing. I think that's why I don't think they're going to do it.
You don't think they'll do it?
I don't think this administration will take your advice and overthrow the Iranian government.
Threatened. Trump has.
But I think for the same, he has. But I think for the reasons that you cited, I don't think they're going to do it. We'll see. But I don't think for those exact reasons that when I said, why hasn't it happened? I think those are the reasons why it hasn't.
Well, they started to do it now. They started to bomb. American planes are bombing the ships coming through, or the attacks to the ships
Right, but
that are coming through.
That's a long way from sending boots on the ground to actually overthrow.
But this is the closest to it. We're sending American
yeah,
planes
yeah, but
to attack that. You're right.
but to really overthrow Iran,
I
you're going to need troops.
We've been too restrained. I agree with that.
So, one last topic before we go on this peace through strength or defense, however you want to refer to it, rather. So Donald Trump the other week, a few days ago, admiring Israel's Iron Dome, suggested, I believe he even told the Defense Department to come up with a plan by April or May, relatively soon, for what he calls a Golden Dome, which would be a similar missile defense system to protect the United States the way Israel's Iron Dome protects Israel. What's your take on that? Good idea?
Absolutely.
So, first...
Why not? If Israel, a little country like Israel, can do it to protect their country, why can't we develop that? We developed some part of that.
Two comments. First, you're always saying how we spend too much on defense. So
we do.
So here you're advocating even more to spend on a new missile defense system called the Golden Dome.
Yeah, I'm saying instead of spending money on military equipment that's going to attack other countries, this is truly defensive. So that's why I'm in favor of it.
So Israel, you would reallocate.
Israel has to use their Iron Dome.
Right. Unfortunately, the way it always works is no program gets cut. It's just a new military program. That's unfortunately. But here's why I'm not so sure. And what I've read about a Golden Dome compared to an Iron Dome, and why that may be as far-fetched as Reagan's Star Wars project in the 1980s, is that when you have a country the size of New Jersey, Israel, it's possible to create a network of radar banks and missiles to literally canvass the entire country, because it's not that big. The United States is a heck of a lot bigger than Israel. So the practicality of it
I'm talking about the same what you just said.
What?
The Star Wars approach. That when they launch it from their country, we knock it down way before it reaches the shores here.
But that's a lot harder to do in the U.S. because of the size than it is for Israel because of its size. So
I'm not saying it's easy to do, but that's defense instead of the bullshit. The only one that was real. It's a shame that people don't realize that Eisenhower was the greatest hero and the greatest general in the history of the United States, notwithstanding all of the other, war heroes of other wars. And he was the one that won against the military-industrial complex. So we don't use it effectively. If we're spending the money, use it. Accomplish your goal, which is to make the country safer. We don't use it. So there's no reason why the Khomeini should be able, one idiot, and people are even against him in his own country, is able to hold much of the Middle East and part of the rest of the world hostage. It's outrageous. All because we're at times we hold back when we shouldn't. At times we get active and attack Afghanistan when I don't know what was the purpose of Afghanistan, of what do you call it, Vietnam. Vietnam didn't attack the United States.
But I think that warning of the military-industrial complex, I think, was a good one. And what when Trump tasks the Defense Department with, developing a Golden Dome, that will be justification for the Pentagon to seek even a bigger defense budget, because now no one's going to want to substitute one project for the next. We can't get rid of this.
That's the
We're
problem
gonna
with that what's his, that
That's why I say it was a valid warning,
No,
because
but
this
no,
is what happens. You have a new idea, and no one wants to substitute the new idea for the old idea. They want to add it.
It's more economic than even military, because it's lucrative for every state, for every congressman. Every time they vote a new defense bill, it's 50 states get contracts, the subcontractors and new jobs. They come back home and say, oh, we just won a thing for Boeing in our area. It's nothing to do with defense. It's a joke, the defense. It's more offense than defense, and it's not used. It's not, you know. There's no real strategy to get rid of the bad guys. The Khomeini is a bad guy, get rid of him. ISIS is a bad guy, get rid of him. Before it be, you know who's the snake, the head of the snake.
So maybe rather than invading the country with soldiers, get rid of them the way we got rid of bin Laden, through a laser attack. Because rather than send thousands and thousands of troops with tanks to overthrow Iraq.
We did the right thing with bin Laden.
Right, but
bin Laden was not a leader of a country.
I'm saying.
We even have rules against killing the leaders of countries. We have rules against that.
Well,
except
the leaders when you go to war.
Make the rules.
Right.
And they don't want to get killed.
Right. So
anyway, I think we killed this subject.
Yes.
And we'll be back next week. It's been a pleasure to meet you. I hope you enjoyed to meet with you. I hope you enjoyed the session that we had today. I want to thank Len Carter for his participation again. And I look forward to your input and your comments, and being with you a week from tonight, next Wednesday. No, not holiday, any holiday.
Not yet. Getting closer.
Next Wednesday, 6:30. We have a date, a hot date. And in the meantime, damn it, be happy. Don't worry. Be happy. Make yourself happy. That's your number one assignment. There's no more important assignment. And that's a role model for your kids too. If you're always smiling and you're always upbeat and you're always happy, it makes for a happier family, and that spreads beyond. It's contagious. So God bless you. I love you. Have a wonderful week, a wonderful every day of your life. Bye.